We will now like to start press conference by Minister IWAYA. I hand over to you. Thank you for coming. At the beginning, I have 2 points to report to you. Firstly, Director General of WTO, Dr. Okonjo, is visiting Japan now. From the 12th through 14th of May, Dr. Okonjo, Director General of the World Trade Organization, or WTO, is visiting Japan as the guest of the Foreign Ministry. And I will be meeting with her after this meeting today. Through the visit this time, I would like to once again confirm with her the importance of the multilateral free trade system with the WTO at its core.
Next, the diplomatic missions and chef program and the reforms of this program. Dinners are the source of networking and the information and collection. It is supposed to be the part of the diplomatic activities. At ambassadors' residences, dinner can be served in order to provide services and to important figures. The chef's role is extremely important. Meanwhile, there is an increase in the inbound travelers as well as the popularity of Japanese food overseas. It is increasingly difficult for us to secure good chefs at diplomatic missions. Therefore, starting from next year, January next year, we are going to introduce a diplomatic missions chef program. Specifically, we are going to define chefs as diplomats for Japanese diet, promotion of Japanese diet, and also the reputation and damages are going to be alleviated and through these activities. At the same time, the compensation amount is going to be raised. And there will be also a support to the house rent as well as a support for the spouse. A new expenditure will be secured for that. And then there's going to be the term 2 years so that the chefs can build a career path. With these activities, we are hoping that we will be able to secure good chefs to build the infrastructure of the Japanese diplomacy.
If you have a question, please raise your hand and come up to the microphone when you are designated. Nikkei Shimbun, Baba-san. Baba, Nikkei, thank you. The Director General of WTO, earlier, as Minister said, today with Dr. Okonjo, you are going to have a meeting regarding WTO. The appellate body is not functioning. As a result, like-minded countries established MPIA and other trade friction resolution mechanism. And what kind of role can Japan play in this regard? Yes, as you just mentioned, MPIA, it is a long name, but that is a multilateral provisional interim arbitration arrangement. Originally, appellate body is to function in order to solve trade frictions. However, for the time being, it is not functioning now. Therefore, in order to replace the arbitration system defined by the WTO treaty, that is the functioning of appellate body, in order to replace that function, EU and other like-minded countries came together to establish this provisional framework in 2020. Now, Japan believes that MPIA can improve predictability of WTO trade friction resolution system, and that would lead to maintenance and strengthening of rule-based multilateral trade system. Therefore, Japan participates in MPIA from March 2023. And Japan has been contributing to a reform in order to contribute to the permanent resolution of appellate body-related problems. Therefore, we participated actively in international discussion. This stance of Japan is not changing. However, we are going to continue to work with various countries in order to lead the WTO reform process going forward. In that sense, appellate body is not working in such a situation. Frictions, trade disputes has to be arbitrated and resolved. Therefore, that is why we participate in this framework. However, the WTO reform is to be a central issue, and we would like to contribute to the reform of the organization.
上村さん、読売新聞。This is Kamimura of Yomiuri Shimbun. This is the trade policy related question. Yesterday, there was an agreement between China and the United States and to lower the tariff by 115%, and there will be a 90-day grace. What is going to be a take on the possible impact of the renegotiation with the United States? And Secretary Bessent said after the agreement they were not interested in decoupling, and President Trump is willing to meet with the President Xi over the weekend. So this can be considered as a sign of relaxation. How do you see the current situation of the U.S. and China? What is the position of Japan? Now, with regard to the announcements by the two countries, we acknowledge them. Basically, we would like to welcome them. So, including these announcements, we would like to closely monitor the situation of the development in tariff policies. And at the same time, we have to closely monitor the possible impact of these negotiations so that they can be reflected in our negotiations. And with regard to the possible impact by this agreement on the U.S.-Japan negotiation, and the positions differ, are different depending on the country. And so the timeline or the content of the agreement and will be subject to change. There were two times with regard to the government-level negotiation between Japan and the United States, and we hope that both sides will be able to engage in the consultation frankly and in constructive manner so that we can reach an agreement as early as possible. And based on the results of the previous consultations between the two countries, as well as the results of the negotiations with the other countries, we are going to closely monitor them to use them as a reference so that we can apply the whole of the government approach to the negotiation. And we are going to prioritize that. With regard to the stability of the U.S. and China relations, which is extremely important for the international community, including Japan. Therefore, going forward, we are going to place our relationship on the trust relationship with the United States, and we are ready to promote the collaboration and cooperation. At the same time, we hope China will be able to play a role that is appropriate to its position in the world.
Kyodo News, Sakaguchi-san, please. Kyodo, Sakaguchi, thank you. On the 3rd of this month, China's helicopters violated Japan's airspace surrounding Senkaku Islands. I have a question regarding that. China's violation of Japan's airspace and the sea is intensifying, according to some people. Such China's activities, what is your view, and how is the government going to respond? And on the other hand, around the same time, there was a small airplane operator doing a sightseeing in order to prevent unexpected events from happening. You said that operators should pay heed to safety. Why did you have to ask the operator to exercise restraint? And does that mean that the government's view regarding the Senkaku's actual control has been changed? Needless to say, Senkaku Islands in terms of history and international law, without any doubt, it is the inherent territory of Japan, and Japan actually effectively controls Senkaku Islands. Therefore, there is no territorial issue to be solved to start with. And based on that, the violation of airspace and sea of Japan this time is extremely regrettable. Therefore, to the government of China, including the level of deputy ministerial level, we have lodged a strong protest in order to prevent recurrence of such matters. Regarding this matter, around the same time, Japanese small commercial aircraft was making a sightseeing flight near Senkaku Islands. That has been confirmed. And generally speaking, Japan, this is a Japanese airspace, therefore a Japanese airplane flying in Japanese airspace should not be prevented as long as airplane is observing relevant laws and regulations. However, this time the objective of flight was a sightseeing flight. In order to prevent the occurrence of unexpected consequences, in order to ensure safety of this flight, there has been communication between relevant ministries and operator. And during this communication process, the safety of the flight should be taken into consideration. That was notified. Regarding the hypothetical question about the future, I want to refrain from making any speculation. However, in any case, the violation of Japanese territory, sea and airspace, this time is extremely regrettable. Therefore, the government of Japan is going to continue to monitor China's activity with a great deal of interest in order to defend the Japan's people's lives and properties and Japanese territorial land, sea, and airspace to the end. Under this policy, with a sense of urgency, we are going to cooperate with relevant agencies in order to collect information to make sure thorough warning and surveillance of area.
Asahi Shimbun, this is going to be the last question. Thank you very much. This is Asahi Shimbun. You are going to have a meeting with the Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar of Israel, who is now visiting in Japan. There are Israeli attacks on Gaza, and that resulted in an increase in the number of civilian casualties, and there is a suspension of materials. And from this viewpoint of humanitarian support, what kind of discussion are you ready to talk to Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, including the role of Japan to be played? With regard to the situation in Gaza, the government of Japan has been consistently denouncing terrorist attacks by Hamas. At the same time, with regard to the disastrous humanitarian situation, as well as the resumption of military operations, there are an increasing number of civilian losses. We have a serious concern over this. And the reoccupation of Gaza and expansion of military operations, they all caused serious deterioration of the humanitarian situation in Gaza, as well as there is a movement toward reversing the course of the two-state solution. We cannot accept them. I would like to refrain from prejudging the content of today's talk. But today, at the meeting with the Foreign Minister Sa'ar, I would like to tell him that the returning to the position of negotiation and on the liberation of the hostages and the continuation of the ceasefire, as well as for the protection of civilians and the securing humanitarian situation, we would like to we hope that Israel will comply with international law, including international humanitarian law. Thank you very much.